token. So I want to know why the team elected to use a cryptocurrency within the game as opposed to a hard currency seen in Web 2 games.
Yeah, there's quite a few affordances that gives us in terms of the actual blockchain itself. Having it on a distributed ledger, Calvin loves data persistence and data availability. It is something which means that if you create something using the token, it will exist forever as an NFT. So if you're making user generated content within our game, that will exist on a blockchain, that will exist on decentralized storage. And therefore, at any point, even if Shrapnel didn't exist, you are guaranteed that what you have made can potentially be used elsewhere as well in the future. So if we have future integrations with other games, or you just want to see your creation itself, you can do that because it is an NFT. And because of the way blockchains work, they need an underlying currency, and therefore we have Shrap. It is also kind of very useful in terms of if we do partner with other Web3 games, you can leave our ecosystem and liquidate your assets much easier and transfer those elsewhere in a much better way than, say if you went into your Steam balance and then Steam has to get a ton of licenses so that you can take that into your bank and you can put that into another game. No, for us, you just sell, you leave the ecosystem, and then you go into another game. So it adds a lot to retention as the gaming ecosystem grows. It means players can move between games in a much less parasitic way for the industry. So it has a ton of benefits for us in the back end, and I'm sure Calvin's got some more probably.
Yeah, yeah. I think a really interesting sort of philosophical uh, issue with a lot of token designs is, I've heard some folks say, we don't even need a token. Why even have a token, right? You can just use USDC, or you can just have an economy built on NFTs. Um, and I think for us, um, just having a token defines sovereignty. It defines the rules of engagement within, a particular network, and that's really what tokens are kind of used for. If you think about it, in the real world, there's plenty of tokens that exist. They're called currencies, and a currency defines a border. It defines a culture. Defines a network of folks choosing to live by a certain standard, a certain rule. You could certainly use someone else's currency in your country, um, but I've yet to see successful examples of that. Usually people do that because their own currency has collapsed, right? And so first and foremost, we believe we are, sort of not only defining building a game, but building an ecosystem, a metaverse, slowly evolving into a metaverse, if you will, with its own set of rules, own sovereignty, own social and cultural value. Therefore, a token is warranted. Also, peer-to-peer networks, um, there's an argument to be made that peer-to-peer network, you don't have to even use a cryptocurrency for payments for peer-to-peer, right? I could just pay you in gold bars, or I can Venmo you. Like if I'm, using the network, why even pay gas fees? I can literally just Venmo validators for their computing power and storage, right? Um, there's already be said that, if all the constituents of the network um, are own and have stake and are involved in the currency, that's the way to solve the cold start problem. And so if there is a currency and you've created it within your ecosystem, then everyone, including the players, the validators, everyone involved in that ecosystem has a direct incentive to promote and to grow the network. And that's a really good use case of just even having a unique token. And yeah, I think those two are kind of hopefully solves the problem of, why token.
And I think from a game design, so if we take a step back and just look at it from a game design perspective, you take a look at Eve, RuneScape, World of Warcraft, they all have in-game currencies that you can actually very simply transfer to being US dollars. It's not very simple, but it's simple enough to where a conversion rate and you can look at your bank balance and kind of figure it out. But the idea of having them is you obfuscate the thought of, okay, my time is worth N amount of dollars or X amount of dollars, and I can play the game and make $2 an hour, for example. The whole purpose of the currency is it absorbs you into that kind of world that Calvin's talking about, where you're just thinking about the game and not about the money that you're making. So it really helps extract the thought process of, okay, I'm here to make money, and it keeps the gamers thinking, okay, I've just got some Shrap. What can I spend it on within the game that I'm playing? Obviously, there are some people that will think from a more financial aspect, and we do have kind of areas of the game that we can send them, but it does really help gamers not go, okay, I just spent $10 on the skin. No, because that's why every game, like, you look at Fortnite, you look at Roblox, you don't put US dollars onto it. You buy a digital currency first, and then it makes it easier for you to spend because it absorbs you into the ecosystem as opposed to having you think about money first.
Yeah, for sure. And ultimately, we want Trap to have a monetary premium, right? To where potentially other currencies and other assets are backed by Shrap. So that's kind of the end game.
Interesting. So I want to ask about one of the utilities of the Shrap token. So the NFTs are priced in US dollars, and then the Shrap token, it's used as like an intermediary between USD and the actual NFT, if I'm correct. So I'm wondering if you could explain why this decision was made and why that's beneficial to like the Shrap token's value.
Yeah, so the prices of things will be kind of soft set in a USD price range, just so that you don't have to deal with that massive, if there is a change in Shrap's price, whether it's up or down, no player has to think, oh, my account value has taken X or Y hit. And that's part of the obfuscating the finances from them. So I think that's kind of the thought process of why it's in USD, but you purchase with Shrap, because Shrap is the thing we're using to have them think that they're in the Shrapnel ecosystem. But your local currency is kind of what you want your assets to stay valued in, depending on your currency, of course. And that helps us keep a stable economy in terms of what people are spending. Because if Shrap doubles in price, one week when we're looking at monetization metrics, it can be very difficult if things aren't all in USD, which is what people locally think in, and everything's in Shrap, which is now twice as valuable. It can make it difficult to analyze what is a healthy economy and what isn't.
Yeah, and I would argue it's not just Shrap. Most, a lot of assets in cryptocurrency, the unit of account is the U.S. dollars. And I would even argue that it's not just reserved for cryptocurrency. It's a lot of assets, given that the U.S. dollar is the sort of global reserve currency. Um, even stocks. I don't count my Tesla shares as X number of shares. I count it in terms of U.S. dollars. And so it's really that unit of account that also reflects in a lot of cryptocurrencies. Like I tend to count in Ethereum not in terms of how many ETH I have, but what's the US dollar equivalent of that per ETH. So yeah.
Interesting. So I want to move on to the topic of generating revenue for the project. So I'm wondering, what are the main revenue